Jason Prebble.
Well, boys and girls, it's that time again. This is Richard Waite for Jason Pribble Auto Sports, wishing you a happy day. And we've got Jason with us today. How you doing, Jason? What's going on?
I'm doing good.
So what it is. Well, and we had a lot of things going on. Mother's Day happened. Do you before we get to the racing talk, let's talk a little bit about Mother's Day. Do you have any memories of racing on Mother's Day, or your mom or grandmom being around on Mother's Day?
Admittedly, I can't remember a time where I haven't been racing on Mother's Day. Because there's just, I race a lot, right? And
Yes.
just so happens that every time Mother's Day comes around, I'm racing. But one of the things, at least with my mom, is she loves her children, right? My grandmother as well loves her grandchildren and her children as well. And they just want us, one of the things they want to do on Mother's Day is spend time with their kids and spend time with their family. So what ends up happening a lot of the time is we are at the racetrack. And yeah, I mean, that's been not a tradition necessarily because it doesn't happen regularly. It's about availability usually.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, my mom loves coming to the track.
One other thing I might mention, you mentioned your sister, and I'm sure you're very proud of her graduating from the University of Iowa this past week, and very honored. I'm sure your mom and dad were very proud.
Yeah, it's huge because she graduated in 3 years, and I'm completely unsurprised by this, but at the same time, super proud that she's been able to make a huge impression on the people working at Iowa. And she changed her major, I think, twice before landing on audiology and still managed to graduate in 3 years.
Right, let's get on to racing a little bit. You went to Donington Park. I know that your expectations were high, and then you kind of went from the penthouse down to the basement a little bit because you had a couple of rough trips.
Yeah, it was a difficult weekend. We started the test day just off on the wrong foot, and we kind of got carried away, separated the driver issues from the car issues, didn't really put those two together until it was pretty late in the weekend. And, we were trying to solve problems with the car that were there, but the majority of the time was with the driver. And I was just struggling to realize that and struggling to know that it was me making the car feel bad versus the car making me feel bad, if that makes sense. But it was tough. We were only like half a second off, but it was time that I just didn't know where to find, right? And then come qualifying, what we wanted was just sleep on it. And a lot of the times when you sleep on it, it really does fix things. That happened at Silverstone. It's happened to me a lot in my career, and this time it didn't work.
Yeah.
And qualifying came around, and I just could not get any time. Yeah, and we came around to the race. Luckily we figured it out, and come race one, we were up to pace. It was just a matter of getting through the pack as much as we could. Donington's a tough track, and it was my first time here.
Any thoughts on Donington Park racetrack that you have?
It's awesome, right? I definitely underestimated it.
Yes.
It was it looks like fun, and it is a lot of fun. It's wild. It's just, you really have to have confidence in everything you do because every corner is a blind corner. It's high speed. The track limits are super punishing, and the curbs are super punishing, as I found out in the second race as well. But yeah, I mean, it's an awesome track, and it's so much more technical than you realize too. Every corner is different, and it's got its own quirks. And one of the cool things is it's right by an airway, which is cool because you get to see a lot of like large planes, commercial airliners, and stuff like that. Except for the fact that they also dump jet fuel onto the track, so it makes it nice and
Really?
slippery, and creates
Wow.
quite a unique surface to be driving on.
Wow. Unbelievable. Do you think then that you matured a little bit as a race driver because of that track?
I think maybe not because of the track specifically. I think, although I agree, right? Every new track that I add to my repertoire is good. I think the struggles that we had this weekend were really what made me a better driver moving forward. Because there's been times like last year, I went and did two races in F1600 in the US. And the first weekend went great, not as well as Silverstone did, but it went well, right? And then the second weekend, we were at New Jersey Motorsports Park, and at least in my opinion, went horribly. I left the track at the end of the weekend furious and disappointed in myself, but I never was able to find time that was missing, and I was never able to resolve that come the weekend after because there was no weekend after. This is a different story because it's the same idea, right? I show up to Silverstone, it goes great. We get to Donington, something's not right, you know? And we found the issue during the race weekend, but luckily now I have the chance to move forward going on with the rest of the season and just the following weekends too. We made some mistakes and we found the issues, and we're going to be able to fix them, and we're going to be able to utilize what we learned throughout the rest of the year.
Both races, the first one was a little bit different than the second one because the first one you started in 10th position and you moved up to 7th, and there was a pretty good grouping there, but you still were able to make that move. And secondly, the second race you had a mechanical issue, and that caused you to have to pit out. But at the time that was going on, you were like in third, fourth place, I believe it was, correct?
I think it was in the battle for fourth, but there was a start infringement for one of the cars in front of me, so it would probably have resulted in either a third or a fourth place. I'm willing to bet. So
And
yeah, go ahead.
even with even with that, you're still in the top three in the United Formula Ford points thing. So it's not like you totally dropped out. You're still in contention. You're doing all right.
At the end of Friday, we had a discussion with the team. We know we're not the fastest, but this is not just about this weekend. We know we're going to be quick elsewhere, and we know this track is very demanding, and it doesn't just come to you, right? It doesn't just come to you like that. It's a track that requires experience, and since I didn't have that, we knew that we weren't going to be the fastest, right? But it was about damage limitation, and we just talked about it. We wanted to make sure that we finished the races. We got decent enough points to hold the lead and keep a good gap in front of some of the more scary championship rivals. Unfortunately, the DNF didn't help, but it was different than what we were expecting because we were thinking more along the lines of, Jason, don't do something stupid and take yourself out of the race. It was more, just an accident, right? Just a snapped bolt. And that's all it takes, right? So.
And a DNF is a did not finish. I figured that out. I mean, I'm just sitting there saying DNF, DNF, DNF. Oh, did not finish. Yeah. I understand. Yeah. Sure. Now, and next up, you got a busy June coming up because you're going to race twice in June. Is that right?
Yes. Linden Hill.
Brands Hatch, I think, is a couple of weeks after that. So
cool.
You got busy month coming up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because we hadn't been in the car since Silverstone before Donington, and that was a 4-week or 3.5, 4-week gap. And it's interesting what happens. I hadn't been in the car in 7 or 8 months before Silverstone, really. We had a bit of testing at Snetterton, but it came back to me very quickly. And then suddenly a 4 week gap means a lot more than an 8 month gap does. And I'm still trying to figure that out, but a lot of people agree with me that that kind of something happens, right? And it's getting into the groove of things again. But we've got a lot of testing scheduled this month as well. So we're going to be, in the car pretty much every weekend in some capacity. And I think that's going to give us a lot of momentum going into Lynn.
And by having those two races within a couple of races, you aren't going to lose that edge. It's like a football team that doesn't play for 3 weeks. They aren't going to be as good as they would be if they were playing every 2 weeks or every week. So it's a challenge to you. You have that lull, and then you got to get up again, to go up. And I understand that, you've got a lot of passion for what you do, but it can still affect you a little bit, not having that opportunity, every 2 weeks or so. How is the car, by the way?
It's fine. It was quite literally just one single bolt that snapped that took me out of the race. But what we're doing is we're going to replace every bolt on the suspension with a stronger grade of bolts so that it never happens again. Because that's not a risk worth taking. And, we're here to win the championship, and we're not going to let a silly DNF like that ever happen again. Because, if a team that wants to win the championship is gonna do that, then they're not gonna win the championship. So no, we know what to do, and we're gonna fix it.
Thoughts? Give me some thoughts on your last four races. What do you think about your experience?
I think there's still a lot to tell. Even I'm unsure of my place in Formula Ford right now, and just, where not just other people see me, but where I see myself as a competitor. Am I one of the top runners, or am I somebody who got lucky? I think we certainly have a disadvantage just being unfamiliar with every track that we're going to, but we're going to be working hard to, resolve that issue. That's why we're getting test dates and we're learning the tracks beforehand. And, that's key to making this work and making sure that, we stay on top. And, I think we still have a good chance of winning this championship. We're not far behind at all. We're still in P3 in the championship, and there's plenty of more races to come. You never know what's going to happen.
Babe Ruth once said that he would rather be lucky than good. Do you think you're lucky, or do you think you're good?
I think. Oh, I think I'm good. I'd like to say that I'm good. It's tough to say that I'm lucky because, you know, in the small scale world of things, I would say that probably I am pretty lucky. The way that Silverstone has worked out for me, being able to win that race. Although it's disappointing that I didn't win the second race as well. That was entirely my fault. That's not luck based at all. But I think my path in racing hasn't been the most prosperous. And so, in the grand scheme of things, I haven't been the most lucky. I've run into quite a few traps, quite a few pitfalls, and I'm just happy that we've been able to come back from them. And yeah, no, I wouldn't say that I'm lucky necessarily, but I think my skill has gotten me to a pretty good place.
I think it has too. Anything you want to add?
No, I think that's pretty good. That's a
It covers it up
good
until
coverage.
now.
Yeah. Hmm.
Well, I tell you what, as we sign off, I'm going to be Richard Waite for Jason Pribble Auto Sports. You can be Jason Pribble, and we'll tell everybody to have a good day, okay?
All right. Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thank you, and happy Mother's Day.